The other day I realised that you've been with us for a year.
I have.
I know, I was quite surprised.
Over
by
a
that.
year now.
And had one of those occasions where you think very superficially and you think, I've achieved nothing, and then you start thinking more deeply and think, my goodness, I've done a lot.
Yes.
And do you feel like that?
I think we've done an awful lot in a year, and I am very similar that I suddenly realised it was the beginning of June and I knew I started on the 3rd of June and went, oh my goodness, I've been here a whole year. And then started to think back over all the things we've done. Because week on week, day on day, it doesn't feel like much, does it?
No,
you kind
it
of go
doesn't,
through the motions and do the things you often do. But actually, when I kind of look at the year as a whole, we've done a lot.
Yeah. If people didn't know, because a lot of people in the congregations can't see what you're doing because they're not there at the time. They're at home or at work, and your work isn't done in church, which is where they see me very often. Although actually I have a whole week of work, which no one sees as well. But
that's a conversation for another video.
Another type video, isn't it? What does the vicar do all week?
Yeah.
What do you do all week? What do you do in schools? You spend quite a lot of time. So actually, it's worth saying, isn't it? You have background in youth work.
Yeah. So my background has been completely youth ministry. My whole career, I've worked in churches with young people, which would not recommend to anyone particularly. But it's been amazing, but that's my background, and I've come into this as a growing younger minister.
Yeah, so this job is wider than anything you'd done previously, really, isn't it? And one of the big elements of that is school ministry. So what does your school ministry look like? What are the big headings what do you get up to?
So one of the things we do most regularly is collective worship.
Right, so we're in schools.
In schools.
So we
should say to start with, we have 6 primary schools in our benefice. We have relationships with all of them. 3 church schools, which we have really great relationships with. So those 3 church schools particularly, we're in every week, every other week doing collective worship.
Yeah.
And that's really great because we see the whole school at one time. It's also one of those things that it's not an assembly, and you and I make it really clear that we don't do assemblies, we do collective worship in the best way that we can. Yeah. And so we're teaching them about church and church services, and we are worshipping with them. We have greetings and the Lord's Prayer, and they talk about stuff, and we have a Bible video, and they pray. Oh my goodness, if we could record this.
They make the prayers up on the spot, don't they?
They do. We invite them to the front, and they do the prayers, which is incredible. Yeah. So actually, I think that is the key for collective worship, is that it's worship.
So that's collective worship, but that's actually quite a small part, isn't it, what you do? Even though there's quite a lot of it, it's very regular, it's very important. It's actually, there are lots and lots of other things, aren't there?
Yeah,
sometimes in the classroom.
Yes, I will try and whiz through some of these because otherwise we'll get stuck on them, won't we? We have done RE lessons.
Yeah,
We've taught RE in schools, done lessons and modules on Christianity and being a vicar and what churches are and Bible things, women in the Old Testament we're currently doing. We do some after-school clubs.
We do. Some are sort of faith-based, aren't they? But we also do non-faith-based.
Yeah, we've had some
discovering God's creation through science, for example.
Really great science clubs, haven't we? A couple of times, and
3 times now, science club.
And that has been really hard at times, but a real joy actually, and been great.
So RE, collective worship, after-school clubs.
Yep, I'm involved in school governance as a U as well, but we are governors on all of.
You're in my role as ex officio in Shap School, aren't you?
Yeah, and again,
too many schools.
That has just been a great experience. To get involved with the school, and I feel really involved through that.
You do other things in schools, don't you? So you've done been on school trips and other kind of things where a volunteer is required.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a real honour as well when the school is going, oh, we need another adult. Who can we ask? Who can come on this trip or do this thing? So I've been on full school trips. We did a night away with year 5s not long after I arrived.
That's right, we did, didn't we? Yes, working with the diocese, so there's a little bit of an extra element there on a nationally funded programme.
Yeah, so it's been really great to do those extra things because they're the real key times that we get to know young people and the ones that wouldn't normally come to our clubs or anything like that. We do lunch clubs as well, so as well as the after-school clubs, lunch clubs, one fully going, one in the pipelines at the moment, so we'll have 2 regular things. And again, that's just great to be in regularly with the same young people, getting to know them, building them up.
What have we left out? Jam. You help with all 3 of our jam sessions, don't you? Where the very tiny ones.
Yeah, so jam is Jesus and Me.
Jesus and Me. Bolton and Crosby and
Moorland, and the real tiny ones, the reception, nursery, come down to church,
Yep.
hear a Bible story, do an activity, and of course have a drink and a biscuit.
Yep.
And that has been really amazing. And some of the questions that we have had from those sessions, I remember one of them, we had both these questions in the same session, and I was blown away. One child, bearing in mind they're only 4, asked, why do we bless people? And another child said, so why did Jesus actually die?
Yes.
And for children that age, it was really amazing to have those questions coming out and be able to talk to them about that.
In the last week, we've both been asked, I think, who created God?
Yeah.
Haven't we? We've definitely been asked about why a good God allows suffering. We've been asked questions about purpose and meaning in the universe. What's the point of living, and how should we live well? We've had questions on that sort of score. And so one of the things that I've been very struck by, which I hadn't really anticipated when we looked for a second full-time paid minister for the benefice, is that I would suddenly have a colleague to do other things with. And that's both, it's both more work gets done, and the work is less soul-destroying because there's someone else to do it with.
Yeah.
So can we kind of think of some of the things that you do that I suspect people have no idea that either of us does at all, or that the youth minister might be involved in? But there's just a sort of sense in which the very small ministry team kind of mucks in on all kinds of stuff, isn't there? So the website, for example, sometimes there's content on the website that you put there rather than me.
There's been a lot of comms and things like that, haven't there? That whether that's website, creating posters and adverts.
Yeah, people probably don't realise, but when they see the flyer for Easter, or a poster for Nine Kirks, or a giving poster in a church porch, a lot of that's you doing that in Canva, isn't it? Which you've made me a convert to.
Yeah,
very good.
I have. And part of that, and I will shout it out because I do use it so much, we've created a logo.
Yes, it's good. Yeah, that's something you.
That was early on,
yeah,
and I said we have to have a logo.
But I've never bothered with I haven't had the time to do. And you've come in and said, yes, I agree. We need a bit of an identity, don't we?
And for me, part of that as well really linked into the safeguarding side of things. That you as a vicar have a clerical collar. Yeah. Now we have a curate; he has a clerical collar, as do Bishop James and Sheila and others. I don't. I'm a lay worker. I've never had any training. I'm not ordained. So me wandering around in any old clothes, I could be anyone.
Yes.
And that's not the best and safest way to work.
No.
And so my original thing was a lanyard. I want a lanyard with a logo and my name, and clearly so people know who I am. When I'm in schools, when I'm in churches working with children, when I'm, parents come to pick up their kids from youth groups, I want a real thing.
Can identify who
it's then grown into hoodies and fleeces,
and
there will be more,
range,
but
that
was really important. And that safeguarding aspect again is something that takes up a fair bit of my time.
So you're helping Sarah as Deputy Benefice Safeguarding Officer, aren't you? But there's more to it than just sort of being the parish safeguarding officer, because you're often the person who's physically present doing the ministry, aren't you? So you have the kind of real insight into what's going on, and your role, I think, makes safeguarding a real ministry, not just a kind of administrative add-on. Safeguarding is about making sure that everyone is not only safe but healthy, and flourishing as well, because our ministry is directed at human flourishing, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's a real combination of things. It is working with PCCs and going through paperwork and making sure people have DBSs and training, but it is also, like you say, giving people safe spaces to flourish. And part of that is being in these places with these young people, hearing the disclosures and dealing with them in a safe way. Part of that is doing the risk assessments and making sure the buildings that we're in are safe and appropriate and the best they can be for the activities we're doing. So it's and then reporting back to various people and just developing things as we go. So,
and some of that's working with PCCs, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So you're in PCC meetings quite a lot. PCC members will see you there. I was thinking about other things that you do that people won't see. So you're doing most of our baptism visiting.
Yes.
You're doing most of the administration for our baptisms.
Yep.
You're doing most of our social media. Before you arrived, we had 0 social media. We now have a reasonable amount. I mean, it's not a huge amount, is it? Because it takes a lot of time, but
we've got
a little bit of a presence.
We've got a reasonable presence on Facebook, and I'm quite proud of that Facebook page. I think we put a lot of what we're doing, not just adverts, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, very few adverts. Unlike most churches, it's not just our service on Sunday is, please
Yeah.
come to our remembrance service, please come to our this, please come to our that, please come to our coffee morning.
Yeah.
Actually, there's sometimes real content. We sometimes get to show what we've done, don't we? So we did a little post. I did a little post when I was on safeguarding training.
Yeah.
You did a little post this week when we were on the Board of Education conference with our
Yeah.
head teachers.
Lots of pictures of the youth and children's ministry that's going on, because that is the exciting stuff. Let's
Yeah.
be honest, you don't want to see us much, but that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so our Facebook is great. We've got this YouTube now as well, which we're trying to do a little bit more on here and there. I have great plans for an Instagram and kind of short form videos and things like that as well. But yeah, all of that's still to
What
come.
you get up to, but you've done some pastoral visiting since you've been here.
Yeah.
As part of
Yeah.
your safeguarding role, you've created a sort of online system of managing our pastoral visiting. If Sue's Grow a Good Neighbours project comes to fruition, I think there'll be quite a lot of stuff around that you'll be able to get involved with.
Yeah, so we've set it within the last year. We've set up Church Suite, which not only is our database now or address book for people. We're using lots of the other functions to make sure that our safeguarding is in check, and we're recording things properly, as well as various rota functions, consent forms. But actually, all of that, anything that we're doing on Church Suite, any emails that you get via Church Suite, anything like that, that has all been set up in the last year. Because I went, let's use this, and you went, if I have to.
Yes, and one of the things we've done together is to create sort of systems and templates, isn't it? Which sounds very dull, but actually all our collective worships now have a kind of template which makes them look similar and familiar, a bit like liturgy does, which I think helps children to engage with them and makes them look smart and shows that we value people, because we try to produce something which looks like it's quality, and that's very important. But actually also it saves a lot of time, doesn't it?
So much time.
We don't have to type the Lord's Prayer into a document or anything like that, because there's always an order of service, there's always a PowerPoint for collective worship, there's lots of stuff ready to go.
Yeah.
So you can spend your time on the stuff that's new and special rather than on dull procedure.
Yeah.
That's enough of dull procedure, but we have done a lot of work on making dull procedure better and quicker. Let's move off that and on to, let's talk about the Growing Faith Hub. I wonder if everyone knows that almost as soon as you arrived, I was asked to apply for quite a large grant. And I said, because we've been encouraged to apply for it, I thought we've just got to do it. Come hell or high water, we must. It's too good to miss.
Yeah, it was literally in the first 6 weeks I was here that we were doing that. And fortunately, I think is the right word, we have received £20,000 from the Church of England, from the Growing Faith Foundation, which is part of the Church of England, over 2 years, to run this project that we put in our proposal. And so the Growing Faith Foundation want to help people run projects that link home, church and school, and have some faith element, but it's quite vague in that sense that people can put in all kinds of different applications, which we'll go into another time, potentially some of the other things that are going on across the country. But our proposal was that we would create a youth church for young people, run by young people, but we were really specific in that, in some ways, that we wanted it to look like a PCC.
Yes,
that
it look authentically Anglican.
It would be Anglican. There would be a PCC, not legally, obviously, but that would run alongside the other parishes in our benefice, and would have its own worship and all of that sort of thing. We are feeling our way with it a lot,
we have done a bit of that. I mean, those who've watched the video about our weekend away, which was a big part of that project, and some of the funding went into it, will know that we were quite ambitious in our closing worship and sort of felt vindicated, didn't we? We did a really full, genuine, quite long, substantial piece of worship at the end of the weekend, and contrary almost to our fears, everyone participated really well and enjoyed it, and we've done a bit of that on our Holy Saturday get together with young people, and we've finished on a bit of worship. We had orders of service, which is the very touchstone of Anglican worship.
It must be worship if we've got a piece of paper.
You have to say words in bold. It must be. So that's an ongoing project. It's quite ambitious, isn't it, to set up something which is consciously over 2 years only.
It feels
Consciously a kind of new worshipping community, a church alongside our other churches in the benefice that is led by young people. It's quite an ambitious target.
It's really ambitious, and I think part of the reason it feels that way is because a lot of the young people that we work with, children and young people we work with, aren't churched, or they're certainly not fully fledged Christians, let's say.
Gosh, yes, no. I mean, many are not.
A
Many have
lot
never
of
been to
them
church.
are exploring and have good questions. I would say a lot of them believe in something,
Yes.
but I think the majority wouldn't count themselves as Christians at all. So I think that is in some ways even more of a challenge, that we're saying we want to create a church that is run by non-Christians.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying at all, but actually
we're enabling people who are searching to seek in a more systematic environment where there are good, safe people to lead them and help them to do that, and other people who are of a like mind.
Yeah.
I was quite struck by a question that you were asked in a youth group earlier this week. From someone who said that they didn't believe in God. They thought they probably never would believe in God, but actually the questions they then asked showed that they were really quite interested in matters spiritual, philosophical. They wanted to discern meaning and purpose in their life and in the world by the standards of their age, and I think they want to continue doing that, and they were effectively asking permission to be part of our group even though they didn't sort of fulfill that basic membership requirement.
It was so brilliant, because they really did come up and say, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in religion, I don't think I ever will. Is that okay? And of course I went, yes, because
you can continue coming to our youth
obviously. And they are one of the most faithful members of that very clearly Christian youth group.
Absolutely, yes. There are a lot of people who say, a lot of young people who profess that they're not Christians, who enjoy our church-based youth group and enjoy engaging with the effectively religious content.
It's great.
Which often isn't a huge element of youth groups, is it? But then
but there's almost always something.
There's almost always something, and it can be very, very meaningful and intense.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to predict, I find, as to whether the conversation will run into the sand after about 3 minutes, or whether I'll get half an hour out of it and be desperate to try and get to the end of what I wanted to achieve before the bell goes, if you like. It's just very hard to predict.
And that is the joy of young people and youth groups, is that you just never know. And we now have what I like to say 4.5 youth groups.
Yes, that's right.
So when I started, there were 2 really.
You had Moorland, didn't you, which was about 7 people on a Tuesday, and we just started what was actually not a youth group so much as an after-school club for year 5 and 6 in Shap. And over your time, you've added to those 2 things, haven't you?
Yeah, so Shap, so I started in June, and some of the year 6s who were leaving and going on to secondary school didn't want to stop coming to our group. So what we've done is open it up, so on Mondays when we have that after school club, they can get off the bus and come back into school and come and be with us for half an hour, 45 minutes. And that has been so good for some of them, because not only are they seeing us and being in the group, they get to be back in school, which is a place that they loved. They felt really safe. They were looked after and nurtured by those teachers, and they go back to those classrooms and find the teachers and tell them what's going on and things like that. So actually that's worked really nicely, and we're thinking about how we can build on that even more to spend a bit more time with those young people as well, who are that bit older and growing and developing in that slightly different way.
So that's Shap. And
so that's Shap.
Last September, you added Crosby Ravensworth / Molesmeadburn.
Yeah, and again, that has just been an absolute joy that fell into our lap, that a young person and their parent, their mum, spoke to me really early on in about June, July time when I arrived and said, we've always wanted a youth group. There used to be one here many years ago. We want one. And I said to the young person, would your friends come? And she went, yeah, I'm sure they will. And I went, okay. And it felt right. You know, we did pray about it. We thought about it for a while. We went, should we give this a go? And we did. Started in September, started meeting in the church. We now meet,
for the most part.
Yeah, in the hall.
Sometimes in church.
In Molesmeadburn, and we're really grateful to them because they let us use the hall for free. They can see the value of those youth groups. And that has built to 9, 10, 11 really regularly. And
out of a larger pool.
Yeah, kind of periphery as well.
Which
there.
is quite a lot of the kids who are sort of eligible, isn't it? Because that's the other thing. We're often dealing with very small numbers because we're very small communities. You know, we haven't got 1,000 children who could all come to our group in theory. We might have 10
Yeah.
children of the right age in a given village who can
Yeah.
come. And so if we get 8 of them coming, we're doing pretty well. If you had that in a more densely populated area, if you had that success rate,
Yeah, the
with
percentage of
attracting people,
children.
you'd be absolutely overrun.
Yeah.
You have to have about 20 youth groups a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two things strike me about what you've described there. Number one is the sort of what we might say in theological terms, the spirit-led aspect of it. We try to do things where God is working.
Absolutely.
And I suppose part of discerning where is God working, part of that is discerning where there is need or hearing requests.
Yeah.
That we're trying to do things that will answer need and are in response to requests.
And that has definitely happened with that Crosby group, that there was the request, but the more I've got to know those young people, and the more we've built that relationship, the more they are opening up, the more they're talking to us or me often, isn't it? And really sharing big stuff that's going on. And they are in some ways the most textbook teenagers out there, that they're talking about relationships and school and you know, all those normal things.
It's really exciting for them to have an adult in a safe space of their own to talk to. It's sort of independent. They have through youth groups. They have an independent life of hopefully of discovery, and of spirituality, but also of safety and of exploration in an environment where their friends and the adults who engage with them are you know, safe and supportive.
And that was one of my highlights of the year. It was when a parent came and spoke to me, or we were talking, and she said, "I'm really just so happy that my boys have somewhere safe to come." And the fact that parents are seeing that and seeing that we are a safe place and they're happy for their kids to come. And some of them are even ferrying them to different villages so they can come to more than one youth group a week. I mean, that is just a huge compliment, I think.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. There's a fourth youth group, which perhaps I'll just mention so that we've for completeness. So we've recently discerned need, heard requests in Bolton, and with Rowan and John, we've started a group there. So that's now a youth group every night of the week. It's actually not the limits of either our ambition or where we discern there's need, is it? We've got really outstanding need that we can't yet address because just time is not on our side. And also requests for more youth work from people that we can't at the moment even fulfill, which is incredibly exciting and
frustrating.
Incredibly frustrating, isn't it? There just aren't enough. There aren't enough nights of the week. There aren't enough hours in the day. We need to. We're at the moment spending quite a lot of time, aren't we, thinking about things we could chop or make more efficient, so that we can do some of the things which we just know are needed. And I think I think some of the things that we'd be able to add, for example, quieter, more conversational events for older people, more nurturing, even more supportive environments. I think that's a real priority. So we've talked about the different youth groups. Is it worth? We've done a separate video on it, haven't we? But it's worth mentioning the Youth Weekend Away, not only because we've done one and it was very successful and there was great worship and great exploration of the divine, but also because we're doing another one in November. But we're beginning to think about now. We'll hope to do another one in March. The power of Weekend Away is very considerable, isn't it?
It's just great, and I've always said this, that weekends away are one of the best things that you can do with, well, I think with people, but certainly with young people, taking them out of their normal routine, out of the normal places, the normal people, and going away for a substantial period of time is going to be far more than spending an hour and a half in a village hall. And we took 55 young people away with us from all over this area, all over the South Lakes as well. And it was a lot of work we put in, but it was so worthwhile. I remember afterwards talking to one young person who is, again, as we say, not a Christian. And I said, after we talked about, the fun activities and whatever, I said, what did you think about the God content, the Jesus stuff? Because we put a lot of work into how we did that, as well as what it was. And so I was interested to hear her response, thinking she'd probably go, oh, it was fine. I put up with it, essentially. But she didn't. She was like, it was really good. And there was a really enthusiasm in her that we've seen continue since that weekend away that wasn't there before. And so yes, it's brilliant on the weekend, but we see impact after the weekend as well. And yeah, go and watch the other video because I could talk forever about
They
this.
have quite a lot. They have quite clear ideas, don't they? And we've been talking in the last week, partly as a result of our Growing Faith Foundation grant, we've been talking about how it is that we can make a youth-led group, and actually they don't have to do all the donkey work, do they? They don't have to organise the worship. They don't have to make the food.
They don't need to preach. They don't need to say the prayers.
Bits, because actually that's not how churches work, is it? Churches have sort of models of governance, PCCs, in the Anglican Church, and then they have ministers, both lay, volunteer, part-time, full-time, paid and unpaid. They have a range of different people who do different roles, but not everyone has a role. Everyone is part of the community, and we set aside some people to do particular things. Actually, young people can do that, and it's a good representation of church, actually, if young people are the kind of driving force, the governance, the PCC, if you like, and we as the paid ministers sort of deliver what they ask for. They ask for things like going away, sleeping overnight in churches, which are the attraction of which I've never understood.
Oh, it's awful. I'd rather do a whole weekend than a night in a church.
Yeah, yes, I would actually, yes.
Yeah.
On the night away, we can have our own rooms and no one can hear me snore. Well, I don't know, maybe
priorities.
I'm thick enough. We should ask you what you're looking forward to in the year to come. So we've done a year in which an enormous amount of new work has been added. We've talked in a way about how we might want to consolidate things and reduce some things, and so we can do more and different and better, hopefully. What are the things that you're really looking forward to in the year to come?
It's not often that I've been able to say this in different jobs and things like that, but I'm genuinely very excited for the year ahead. Firstly, because I've loved being here this year, and there has been, like hopefully everyone has realised from this video, we've done so much, we've met so many young people, we're working with so many children and young people. That's great. If I could carry on and just do exactly what I've done this year, I would be thrilled with that. But actually, it's so much better than that, because this benefice has so much potential and so many opportunities in the ways that we've been saying. People are asking for stuff. We can see the Spirit leading in different places. And one of the first people I worked with said, all you have to do in ministry is work out what God is doing and point to it and ask to join in. So show people what God's doing, go, look, God is working here, and then say to God, can I join in? How do you want me to join in?
Encourage others to come and join in as well.
But I think that's so exciting, and that's what we've been doing. We can see God leading, we can see God going places, and we want to go with him there as well. And I think that's great. And one of the big things for this year, I think, is trying to develop a youth community across the benefice.
Yes.
And so that's linked into the Growing Faith Hub, but actually it's really important, those local youth groups, in the way that local churches are really important, that we have a church in every place, people have services in every place, we have our youth groups in every place, but actually bringing people together as well, and either having kind of crossovers in youth group, but actually doing these events, so doing the weekend away, doing the Holy Saturday campfire, various other bits and pieces we've got in mind. Those things are really important to then bring people together as well, so the young people know each other, are friends. We have seen friendships develop across youth groups, and now people are going to more than one youth group and things like that. And I would love to see that develop even more.
Yeah, it's a bit of a microcosm of churches, isn't it? You need the local.
Well, yeah, and
but
that's
you also need the together.
Exactly what we're saying, isn't it? And it's what we're saying about, you might not see these kids on Sunday morning, but they're doing church. It's exactly the same model that we have of churches in our youth groups. And actually, these youth groups, almost all of them pray, almost all of them hear the Bible, almost all of them have fellowship, almost all of them discuss and support and love and cherish and nurture each other. Do you know what I mean? Like it is there, and I would love to be able to communicate that better to more people. Is A, how amazing this ministry is, and B, that it is church, and part of that as well. And I'll mention them in here. We have a brilliant team of volunteers in every place that we're in. We have amazing people who give up their time and come and work with us, because they can see how impactful and important this ministry is for these young people. And I think that's really true. And if you're one of them, thank you. but also, if you're not going to talk to these volunteers, ask us who they are. We can point you in the right direction. But I have no doubt that every single one of them will be able to tell you stories of what they've done, of young people, of what God is doing in and through these young people as well. And I just get so excited by that.
We thank people who volunteer. We should also thank the individuals, the small number of individuals, and also the small number of group of PCCs who've made it financially possible.
Yeah, and so
without which it just nothing could have happened.
Yeah, and I guess I want to take an opportunity on camera that might get to other people to say, please support this financially. And that feels a little bit weird to say because some of that will go straight into the ministry, some of that will go into my salary and expenses and things like that. But I've seen so many exciting things and so much growth and God doing so many things in this year. I'm contracted to 3 years here. I've done one of them. I would love to stay longer, as long as that's what God wants as well. I would love to stay longer because actually making impact, but also making things sustainable within 3 years is really, really difficult.
Hard, isn't it? Yeah, we're not going to build in 3 years something that will last forever.
And so part of that is giving financially. Yeah. So my request to anyone watching, anyone speaking to us and our volunteers and the young people is firstly to pray for this ministry. That is the most important thing. But also consider what you can give, whether that's financial or your time in some sense. And the time doesn't have to be face to face with young people. We have a brilliant volunteer who buys the crumpets every week for one of our groups. And that is just, I think they underestimate how grateful I am for it because it means I don't have to do that. I don't have to think about when I go to the shop and pick these things up or make a special journey. It makes a huge difference. So if you can do things like that, if you can, sort out my box of paints, or there are all kinds of things. So pray and giving financial and getting involved. But I certainly, and I know you're very similar, can't talk about this enough.
No.
We genuinely love it, and I'm grateful to you as well. So I'll say, I know I'm not nice to you very often, but I will say thank you to you publicly on screen because I do enjoy working with you and I think we work well together. And I love that the vicar and the priest in charge is so invested in children and young people. I think that's how it should be everywhere. Unfortunately, it's not, but I love that we get to work together to build God's kingdom.
Well, it's been a marvellous year which we've achieved extraordinary things that I've never seen achieved in any other church that I've been connected with, on a scale that I've never experienced even in much bigger and better resourced churches. A lot of it's down to you. We're very grateful. We look forward to another successful year.